Well, good morning, and thanks for coming and tuning in for those who are on Facebook. My name is Pablo Rodriguez. I'm Dr. Pablo Rodriguez. I'm CEO of Nuestra Salud, a production company dedicated to increasing health literacy in the Latino community. I am also the former medical director of Planned Parenthood for 25 years, and I've been living in Rhode Island for 40 years. This coming spring. My entry into the world of advocacy was as a result of the 1986 convention when I was medical director, and we were fighting Proposition 14, which was going to make abortion illegal in Rhode Island, including other amendments that were not really good. These amendments were defeated then in 1986, but they were after an expensive campaign to defeat them by civil rights groups. Since then, every 10 years, we face the question of whether to hold another constitutional convention to propose new amendments and send them to the voters. Today, as it was 40 years ago, reproductive rights, LGBT rights, immigrant workers, and voters' rights are at risk if a constitutional convention is held. And divisive amendments financed by out-of-state interests can surface once again. Today, a group of Latino leaders are raising the alarm that a constitutional convention is a significant threat to the civil rights of Rhode Island's immigrant and minority communities. Across the country, wealthy special interests have dumped in unlimited money into state ballot referenda, trying to take away the rights of many different groups of people. Rights we as Rhode Islanders have fought hard and could all come under attack if we approve a constitutional convention. Affirmative action, non-discrimination laws, voting rights, the right to bail, access to driver's licenses, emergency healthcare services, public education, and more. These laws have been passed to improve Rhode Island's economy, promote equality, and enhance public safety. And they would all be placed at risk as a result of a constitutional convention. Nothing will be off the table. So today we will hear from Treasurer James Diossa. We were supposed to hear from Mayor Central Falls, Maria Rivera, but as you may know, there's been an incident in Central Falls, a shooting, and she could not make it today. Wilda Reynoso Lopez, the Policy Associate for the Latino Policy Institute, will also join us and will urge voters to reject question 1 on the ballot this November. Let's hear from Treasurer Diossa.
Yeah, thank you. You can tell the doctor's been around the way, huh? Jeez, but muchas gracias. It's great to be here with all of you. I'm pleased to join my colleagues and advocates in raising awareness around the upcoming vote to convene a constitutional convention in Rhode Island. This November's ballot will include a question asking voter approval to hold a constitutional convention in our state. On the surface, the convening of a constitutional convention sounds promising. Every Rhode Islander would have the opportunity to vote in support or opposition of the things they care about. The last time Rhode Islanders approved such a convention was nearly 40 years ago in 1986. In the 1985 election to choose convention delegates, fewer than 18% of eligible voters went to the polls. As a result of the combination of low turnout and the large number of candidates in some of the districts, some delegates may have been elected by fewer than 5% of the eligible voters in their district. The resulting constitutional convention ended up being controlled by the political establishment of the time, despite the argument that such a process would circumvent politics and empower everyday citizens. When we take the lessons learned from that convention and apply them to this moment in time, a time of low voter turnout, excessive influence of money in politics, and extremely divisive rhetoric, the prospect of holding a convention that would faithfully represent a majority of Rhode Islanders' opinions seems unlikely. If a convention were held today, we would likely see challenges to advancements that were made in guaranteeing civil rights to the LGBTQ community, immigrants, workers, and minorities, challenges that could be empowered by a relatively small number of voters and fueled by millions of dollars in special interest funds. We've already seen the impact of special interest money in our federal and presidential races, with billionaires currently spending hundreds of millions of dollars to influence outcomes and voter turnout. There's simply no need to do an end run around our established system of representative government. Proponents of the Constitutional Convention argue that this process represents true democracy, the will of the people. The fact is, we already have a robust system of representative government in place, with strong state legislature consisting of senators and representatives who pass laws every session, laws that often have a direct and immediate impact on our lives. Every 2 years, the voters, Rhode Island voters, get to choose who represents them in the General Assembly. And with today's tech and communication tools, it's easier than ever to get in touch with your representative or senator to express your opinion on a particular issue. That's why I urge all Rhode Islanders to vote no on question 1, rejecting a constitutional convention in Rhode Island. Instead, reach out to your rep and senator via text, call, email, social media, and let them know exactly how you feel on the issues of the day. If you're not sure who they may be or how to get in touch with them, you can easily find this information by visiting vote.ri.gov. Our state has a history of independent thought leadership dating back to Roger Williams and the Royal Charter of 1663. Let's not allow special interests to do an end run around an established and proven system of representative government. Let's vote no on 1. Quiero decir que estamos aquí porque hay una pregunta en el folleto de votaciones de noviembre 5. Queremos deciros como representantes de la comunidad latina que vote en contra de esta iniciativa. Ha habido muchos avances positivos que impactan a toda la comunidad latina y no queremos que cambiar ese sistema que puede tener un impacto negativo en nuestra comunidad latina. Muchas gracias. Thank you.
Let's hear now from Wilda Reynoso Lopez, who's a policy associate right here at the Latino Providence.
Buenos dias, good morning everyone, and thank you for being here today. My name is Wilda Reynoso Lopez, and I am the policy associate for the Latino Policy Institute. I want to speak directly about why LPI strongly opposes the Constitutional Convention and the serious threat it poses to Rhode Island Latinos community and other marginalized communities. First and foremost, holding a constitutional convention in today's political climate would open the door to special interest groups empowered by the Supreme Court's 2010 Citizens United decision to push agendas that undermine our civil liberties. We have seen this happen before. Groups with deep pockets drown out the voices of the ordinary people, particularly in communities of color, like ours. History offers us an important lesson. The last Constitutional Convention in 1986 led to harmful amendments. One stripped away the right to bail for people charged with certain drug offenses, and another disenfranchised those with criminal records even if they were on probation or had suspended sentence. These measures were later overturned, but not before damaging countless of lives, especially in low-income communities. Today's political climate is even more divided, making us particularly vulnerable. If a constitutional convention happens, we're likely to see campaigns aimed at undermining public education, immigrant workers, reproductive rights, and workers' protections. With the rise of misinformation in these efforts that could easily gain traction, especially since Rhode Island is the only state facing this ballot measure this year. A major concern is the lack of accountability for these delegates who would be chosen to participate in the convention. Unlike members of the General Assembly, who face elections every 2 years and are accountable to their constituents, these delegates wouldn't have to answer to the public once they are elected. This raises serious questions about who they really represent. At least in our current system, we have a clear process to engage with our elected officials and hold them accountable for their decisions. It's also crucial to remember that the last Constitutional Convention wasn't representative of our communities. Can we trust this process to truly reflect the needs and voices of Latinos and other marginalized communities in Rhode Island? According to the Rhode Island Current, they said that it would be costly process. It would cost the state between $2.6 and $4.6 million. That's money that could be far spent on direct services and investments in our communities that is desperately needed. Lastly, we must address the involvement of anti-union organizations in supporting this constitutional convention. These groups have long sought to weaken labor protections in Rhode Island, which is a direct threat to low-income workers, particularly those in communities of color. We cannot afford to lose the hard-won protections that we have fought over the years. We cannot risk opening the door those who seek to take them away. That's why we urge Rhode Islanders to reject question 1, oppose the Constitutional Convention proposal, and protect the rights and dignity of all of our communities. Thank you.
Thank you very much. As you've heard from my esteemed colleagues, the risks of a constitutional convention are not worth the benefit. While our opponents claim a constitutional convention could improve our governmental structure, we believe this is a red herring that will certainly serve as a vehicle for socially divisive amendments. I was a member of the first Judicial Nominating Commission. That didn't come out of a constitutional convention. That came out of the legislature. So we have a process for changing government, for improving government, and it has worked in the past. Likewise, with separation of powers, terms for officers in the legislature. So we do have a process that is representative and that forces the legislature to respond to the needs of the community. And if they fail to do so, then they will not get elected. So we do have a process. These convention delegates don't have anybody to respond to. They get elected, they do their stuff, and they go home. So it's very important that we urge all voters, not just Latino voters, all voters, to reject question 1, because passage of a constitutional convention will lead to disastrous results for Rhode Islanders. We're here for any questions that you may have. We have some members of the unions. Thank you, Patrick, and any questions?
One of the arguments on the people who want to approve question 1 say that the people who are telling you to reject it don't want the voters to have, you know, a say, I guess. Another say, any response to that criticism?
The voters have a say in every election. So what we need to do is we need to inform voters of the reforms that we want to do, just like we did with the Judicial Nominating Commission, just what we did with separation of powers. There is a process, and a process that works with every election. So it is a red herring. You know, you can have government reform even if you don't have a constitutional convention, and we have proven that it can happen here on Rhode Island.
Because this is such like a it only happens every once in a while thing, do you think Rhode Islanders even understand question 1 at this point?
No, and this has been already proven by the surveys. They say a con, they think it's some kind of Middle Eastern food. It's not, and it is very dangerous for, as my colleagues have mentioned, to minorities, to LGBTQ, to immigrants, to workers. The risks are just too high. Anything else? All right. Thank you very much for coming.